the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union Board of Directors for Wednesday, October 27th, 2021. Again, it's 5:04. I'd like to read the agenda. Item 1 is public comments. Item 2, finance and operations related. That includes the treasurer's report for September, the new food service bank account, contract for facilities project consultant and project manager, letter of intent to lease central office, the consent agenda, which includes minutes, warrants. I don't believe there were any leaves of absences or retirements, resignations, and nominations. Item 4 is there are no policies tonight. 5, superintendent's report. 6, chair's report, and other items to be brought before the board on which we are unable to take action tonight. And FYI, the budget status and the student enrollment. Public comments. I should ask if there's any changes to the agenda, if this is acceptable, board members.
Yep.
No changes.
No changes.
No changes.
Public comments. We have no public comments. We'll move on to finance and operations. We have a treasurer's report from September 30, 2021. Is there a motion to approve that?
Second it.
Brad made a motion. Leon second. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed or abstentions? And the motion carries. Item B is a new food service bank account. I think that's your ball game, right, Renee?
Yes, sir. So as you all know, Arlington and Sandgate school districts joined our SU this year. Arlington is operating a separate food service management contract. And because BVSU had a separate employer identification number, our bank accounts don't jive. So we wanted to open a new account under the SVSU to continue the operations as they have been. But the Bank of Bennington wouldn't allow us to do that without the board's authorization. So basically we need the board to recognize that we would like to open a new bank account with the Bank of Bennington for our food service account to manage the Arlington food service contract, and that the signers on the account will be Treasurer and Assistant Treasurer Dave Durfee and Melanie Dexter.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Leon, second from Fran. Discussion.
One question, this is separate from the account that the SVSU operates under for food
Correct.
service?
Right. Yes, because they collect monies. It's easier for
Yep.
banking purposes for
I got
everything
that.
up there. Yep.
Other concerns, questions, discussion? Seeing none.
Call the question.
I'm sorry.
Call the question.
All those in favor of approving the new food service bank account according to the conditions specified by Renee, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Item C, contract for facilities project consultant, project manager.
Have that proposal summary from you that Renee put together in your packet. Renee and I made the decision that this was a position that is needed to oversee the vast amount of projects that could be coming down to spend on ventilation projects for using ESSER funds in our buildings. And your Director of Finance and Operations, Renee Gordon, doesn't really have the capacity to add this on, though she can work wonders. This is neither her specialty or especially with budget season coming in and the amount of potential work that could be here. So we did put out a request for proposals. Renee, would you like to speak to the summary you put together?
Sure. We had 11 firms that we typically, whenever we're looking for architectural or engineering services, we have them on a, kind of a pre-qualified list. So we sent that out to all 11. We had 3 respond on time. One was a late submission, so I did not include that in the summary. But I've kind of pared down what the scope is that we're going to be asking the person to do. And it is, essentially kind of helping me do my job, but it's going to be so many projects, and again, happening at the same time that we just need some help for somebody to manage all of that. So basically it's soup to nuts. We're starting from the very beginning to identify whatever projects are needed. This person will help, flush out the details of what that's going to be. We're going to hire engineers to actually design the work. We'll put it out to bid, and they'll help manage the contracts to get them up. And then once the things are actually under construction, they'll be managing that as well. So I did put this into our ESSER grant for the initial phase of this contract, and it has been approved. So it will be funded through our ESSER 1 funds.
Any questions for Renee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long this is supposed to take place? I know we got a lot of things we're talking about, but this person, since we're going to I said this person, but we're going to bring this firm on, a group on to do this for 1 year or 2 years, or we don't know.
That's why we're bringing it to you, because it is going to be a multi-year contract. So the first phase of money that we have approval for will carry us through September of 2023. Nope, I take that back, September of 22. And then the next pocket of money that we'll be applying for to continue these services will carry us through September of 2024.
Okay. Thank you.
Renee, can you explain the fund to so people that are watching or whatever, so they know exactly what it is?
The fund?
Yes, the fund itself.
Yes, a fun.
Yep, the ESSER stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. There have been 3 essentially pockets of money that the federal government has approved through various acts, through the COVID-19 pandemic. So we refer to them as ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and then the third one is commonly referred to as ARP ESSER, which is the American Rescue Plan ESSER. So again, we're working through each of those, but this first piece is ESSER 1 to be funded that way. So it's all federal money. It has been approved.
Is that something we use for this football field or any of that things? Just had to ask.
It's all going to be related to,
There you go.
ASPRE standards,
Okay.
COVID response to making sure, our ventilation and occupant comfort.
And maybe air conditioning too, right?
We are going to try to get the air conditioning in, yes.
Good.
Yep.
Especially the middle school.
So, so this contract goes through 22 because it's paid for from the first tranche of funds,
Correct.
but the work continues to 24. So there will be an extension of this
Yes.
after 22.
Yep. With an updated funding source. Yes.
Right.
I just want to note that this kind of connects to what I've been doing for 35 years, and there's no way that people who are on the ground in other capacities know about the technical details that they need to keep an eye on for this kind of thing. And so it's an important position.
Really will be our representatives as we deal with contractors and owners represented in the community.
Yeah.
I would just interject one point that is in the proposal, that the firm that does this work works strictly for us and is not involved in bidding on any of the work and designing anything. They're just overseeing that it meets our.
So they have
needs
no
and
financial
parameters.
interest in,
Yes.
yes.
Yes,
That's
I
an
made
important
that,
point.
it was a specific requirement, or I made a specific notation
Yeah.
when I sent out some supplemental information, and I did have a couple of firms actually back out from their interest in doing this part of the work because they actually want to do the design work.
So I'll move that position.
A second.
We have a motion to approve from Leon, second from Fran. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries. And
Thank you. And I just want to confirm that Richard has that the contract is going to Centerline Architects and Planners, with the project manager being Michael Briggs.
Right, we should have had that in our motion. Probably.
was just gonna say that, but we awarded the contract.
Okay,
Item
we-
D, letter of intent to lease central office.
So as you know, we've been, at least for the past 2 years, looking for a replacement for this building. This building has some serious ADA compliance issues, particularly with the lower level of this building. And so we've been looking, we've had a number of tours of different buildings, but we're at the point where I'm going to tell you where we're looking. It's been kind of not public discussions at this point because we didn't know where we were going to end up. We had looked on South Street, we had looked up in the industrial park off of East Road. I think Renee is probably beaten down so many buildings in the greater Bennington area. But we have twice now been out to look at space at the Bennington Brush Building and met with the developer there. And there is enough open space that we could consider moving there. What we're asking the board to do is authorize the signing of a letter of intent. It's not a contract, but it would tell the developer that we would like to pursue further, like there'd have to be some architectural plans to see what the build out would look like to get real estimates so that then they could, remember, we as an SU cannot own property. We can only lease property. That's important for anyone home to know. So the intent to lease would be up to 8,000 square feet with an option to grow to 10,000 square feet at a cost to not exceed $16 per square foot. And that is still all subject to negotiations, but the developer is asking for an intent from us so that, you know, they will not lease it to someone else, but it in no way binds us to go there, but it is the next step that we would take so that we could come back with real prices, real estimates, and real costs proposal to the board, which at that time, we could make the decision whether we wanted to continue and actually sign that lease or not. So I do want to thank, you know, Renee today, and Laura Boudreau is here. Laura, Renee, Nick Galt and I have toured a number of buildings. We went back there again today. I think it would fit our needs. It's all on one level. There's ample parking. And there's meeting room too. Like that's some of the problems that we have. Some of the spaces we've seen is a lack of conference rooms, and we use both conference rooms in this building quite frequently. Anything you want to add, Renee?
Just the fact that the developer of the property is very willing to work with us, you know, on the finances. So I know $16 a square foot is kind of a stark, drastic change to where we currently are, but he's willing to work with us and phase that, you know, max cap in over time. He'll be financing all of the build out and the design work, so we won't be paying for any of that. It will be built in.
How big is the building overall?
There are other tenants in the building, so I'd probably say it's at least double the amount of square footage that we're looking for.
So about 20,000,
It-
and you're
Yeah.
looking at 8 and then maybe
With
10.
an option to go to 10.
So this includes build up for whatever systems have to be put in place.
Right,
Fire
the-
safety and that kind of.
Yeah, there is, I believe, the windows have already been done over, replaced, the HVAC systems are there, but there need to be lighting, flooring, and wall treatments done it's very raw space right now.
We're not encumbered.
No,
Any
as Renee said,
costs.
that would be all built into the lease price. What they would spend. So that's why the next step, we did meet with the architectural firm that the developer uses, and we gave them some preliminary ideas of what type of space we would need, what that space would need to look like. And they would then, the next step, if we agree to sign a letter of intent, then the developer would have them actually do more than just, a sketch on a piece of paper, so that then the developer can use that to build his price. And then we would bring that back to the board.
And the architect is very confident that the space he'll be able to fit our program within the available space in the building.
Because we did send them a list of what we do have a list of what our space requirements were based from other properties that we have been looking at.
What would the likely lease term be if we
I think
proceed?
we can go up to 12 years, is that correct, Renee?
I've kind of modeled it after the letter of intent we had a few years ago for the other property on South Street. So the way that legal counsel had suggested we pursue it is an initial 3-year lease with multiple options of renewal to get us, closer to that 10-year mark. So we'll be looking at a, 9 to 12 year probably initial agreement.
And the ramp up to $16 a square foot per year is not, that the term of that ramp up is not settled yet. That
No.
would be in.
That's why we
in
said
an actual lease.
We gave a maximum number not to exceed. And I think what the initial startup square foot is going to be is what the build out actually might come to. So.
Right.
Right.
If we sign the,
Go ahead.
if we sign the letter of intent, does it block the developer from renting it to anybody else in that time?
Yes.
And
Scott,
what
yep.
time do we have to make a final decision about going ahead proceeding?
I think the developer's pretty open on it. We did not discuss how soon we have to go from a letter of intent to actual contract, because I think he doesn't know how long it's going to take to get accurate estimates and a price. So, but I could see it being fairly quick because the architect had already looked at the space for another potential tenant, so they do have measurements and raw space drawings for that building.
So the next step from them is that they're going to produce a conceptual layout of the space for us.
Yes, and then the developer will take that and build what his square footage price will be.
Right.
Here's the question I had. Did anybody look at the old Carbon building on Gage Street? There's a bunch of offices right on that. It's 2 or 3 story building. It's pretty big. It's mostly office space and stuff like that. Right on Gage Street.
Gage Street.
And there's parking. There's parking.
I know we did not look at that.
Okay.
Yeah. We also worked closely with the town for suggestions. They were very helpful with giving us, leading us to developers who had control of property in the Bennington area.
Okay.
Other questions?
Got phone.
What, I do not remember the cost per square foot of the South Street property that we looked at several years ago.
That was gonna be closer to the $12 range, was it? South Street?
We were actually starting at 6
Yeah.
with an escalator
With an
clause,
escalator.
of 1.5% annually.
And some of the properties in the Bennington area, believe it or not, are going in the $40 square foot range, so. So this is certainly higher than what we're paying here. We pay a flat rate for this building. Less than some places we looked at. It's certainly, you know, there's no way around saying that it's going to be an increase, but we did have an engineer look at this building, if you remember. And the least expensive option was $750,000, and the bottom floor would not be usable. It would be only allowed for storage.
Yeah.
To be able to use both floors completely ADA compliant was $3.5 million.
Yeah, well, that's,
The building
So-
that you're mentioning, the Bennington, it's the Bennington Brush Building, correct? For the
Correct.
letter of intent. Yeah, so I think from what I know, that developer is local. So, I mean, another good point to that is that, you know, we're using it, our money stays local, if you
Yes.
will. Because it is a local developer. And I think that that developer is very committed to the community as well, so.
Both valid points.
Other discussion? Right?
well, I'm not opposed to this because it doesn't really commit us to the project, and there'll be more information.
That's
I'd like a comparison, well, you know, more comparison to what we looked at South Street. And I forget.
Right.
You know,
Which is
it's
no longer,
been a while back, and I
Right,
forget why
yeah.
we discarded that.
we didn't, it was no longer available to us.
Okay.
The,
There's no fundamental reason not to engage in more discussion.
Yeah. we
That's
need
what
more
this-
information, and signing a letter of intent allows us to get additional information.
Yeah.
So I guess we would need a motion authorizing,
Do we have a motion on the
I don't
table?
know if we did or not.
I'll make a motion, but I want to make sure it doesn't lock us into
No,
anything.
it's only to sign a letter of intent to please 8,000 square feet with an option up to 10 and not to exceed a $16 per square foot price. So I would say that all of that would be in the motion for a letter of intent only.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion from Fran, second from Ray to produce a letter of intent not to exceed $16 a square foot.
Not to exceed, not,
Not to exceed was what I heard, correct?
yes,
Yes, not to exceed.
that's correct.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? And abstentions? Being none, the letter of intent is approved. Move on to the consent agenda, including minutes from the meeting of September 22nd.
I'll move it.
Warrants, resignations and nominations. Motion from Fran's on the table.
Second.
Second by Ray. Discussion. No discussion. Okay, in that case, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? And the consent agenda is approved. There are no policies tonight, which moves us to the superintendent's report.
The policy committee will be meeting Monday afternoon.
That's correct. That's the plan. We have a pre-meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30.
8:30. And then, so. Good evening. So the big thing I really want to talk to you about is the building, and thank you for approving us to go forward with that. We put a lot of time into looking at, Renee has extended, you know, I think it's her mission to move us to more habitable locations. I want to thank her for spearheading that for us, and to all the others, you know, particularly Nick Galt and Laura, who have been there along with us as we meet, review, and discuss, and also plan for, like, what's the best way to use this space too for school operations. Want to talk to you a minute about substitutes. You know, we were before you a couple of months ago, asked you to raise the substitute rate because, you know, we're competing for workers just like everyone else. And it brought us a few more, but not enough. So I do want to thank particularly Gloria Cahill of our HR department and all of the HR department for their work to bring and onboard more substitutes. In our weekly newsletters, monthly newsletters, we put a letter out to parents. I don't know if you saw that in the newsletter that I sent out to you, to parents asking if they're interested in being subs, or also mailing letters out to subs. So we've created over 2,000 mailing labels, and they're going out in batches. A little over 1,000 letters have gone out to parents right now. And it's really an advertisement for it. I'll read it. Your school needs you. The COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in a shortage of substitute teachers. So we're reaching out to our Southern Vermont communities as we would love you to join our team in whatever capacity you can, whether it's one day, a week, or 5 days a week. Qualifications: must profess a high school diploma or a GED, must pass the required background check, and attend a short training session. Pay rates based on a 7-hour day. A starting rate is $102 a day for a non-certified teacher substitute. Certified teacher substitutes is $143 a day. You must possess a valid teaching license. The para-educator substitutes pay $98 a day. Nursing substitutes $148 a day. Office substitute pay is $14.52 an hour. Interested candidates can visit our website for more information about our schools and find the required substitute packet that would need to be completed online at svsu.org. Any questions, you could contact Gloria Cahill via email at gcahill@svsu.org. So I think I'm excited about this going out and reaching out into our community. If we certainly could use substitutes, come join us, come be part of your child's education. We would welcome your involvement. Yesterday, we meet with the union officials once a month. Yesterday, we met with the union again, the officers of the teachers union yesterday. They bring us their concerns, their questions. We answer them the best we can. One thing that came out of yesterday's meeting is I think that we need to expand that beyond just meeting with the leadership of the association. So we're going to expand to include some listening tours, for lack of a better term, that we'll bring administrators at building levels, central office administrators, for a series of meetings, so we can hear directly from staff about their concerns, answer their questions as more of a ground level discussion. And so we asked the union leadership for that support for that idea, and we're hoping that that will continue to happen, so we can hear directly what their concerns may be. Bill Basic and I, and again today, we continue to meet. We're both committed to drafting a final timeline as we continue to absorb the operations of the Battenkill Valley Supervisory Union. And it has become clear to Bill and I that is, as we're in this transition year, well into this transition year, we need to finalize that timeline for operations that Bill is doing, how we transfer them to completely to the SU. So we're going to meet again next week, specifically for timeline issues. The Vermont Department of Education released winter sports guidance yesterday, and it does allow for fans in the stands if they're wearing masks. It's a local option if the local option allows it. I met with all the regional superintendents. There is no regional block to that. We're all in agreement that we feel we can put enough protocols in place to allow that. I've asked the SVSU COVID-19 coordinator, Ashley Walker, to meet with the SVSU Athletic Director, Ashley Hoyt, to draft, to review and then draft recommendations to me on that guidance. And once we have that done, then we will, like I'm hearing now from choral directors, band directors, play directors, can we go back to those operations and those events and not just outside? So that's what we're going to spend the next week pulling apart and giving recommendations. I think that, you know, we should be able to go forward with that. Players will have to wear masks. The new guidance is putting close contact down to 3 feet, not 6 feet any longer. So that will, you know, that could change some parts of our of how we respond to COVID positive cases. We continue to see, you know, our nurses are continuing to contract tracing, continue to have COVID cases, positive cases requiring quarantine. I acknowledge how much impact that is for families, how much work it is for our nurses to continue to do this. We did meet with the Vermont Department of Health. Our schools are most likely not going to be vaccination sites as we open up for the 5 to 11-year-olds. We'll continue to partner with the hospital here for vaccinations once that becomes available. But we constantly look at that, and if there's more efficient ways that we can do that, then we'll shift and do it. But right now it's the plan to do for the 5 to 11-year-olds the same way that vaccinations were offered for the 12 and up. It feels sometimes that all I do is talk about COVID and the impact that it is in our schools. Everything from what we're seeing in student behavior, particularly younger student behavior that we've never seen before. And I can only speculate that students who just haven't been in school before are learning how to be in school again, how to, you know, remain in a classroom for up to 7 hours. It's been a challenge for some of our schools, and never mind the positive cases that require in quarantine. But I'm confident that we'll continue to manage it. I'm also mindful of the impact that it's had on staff and students. And all I can say is we will do our best.
Target is still 80%.
Still 80%. We're at last numbers I got last week. The high school was high school's at 57%. Middle school is less than that, but that would be explained by, you know, half the 6th grade is too young to be vaccinated. So still a ways to go there. So we're, you know, I'm hoping that we'll get a quicker response with the 5 through 11-year-olds so that we can get to 80% and keep everyone healthy and our schools open.
So we stand the same way we did before. When we reach 80%, we have passed the threshold of the mask.
The mask guidance has been extended to January now. So I imagine the state will continue to monitor what vaccination rates are before they will remove that or continue to extend it. Any questions that I
Can I just,
answer for anyone? Scott?
Scott?
yeah, going back to the substitute teachers. How are they paid? Is it bi-weekly? Is it weekly?
Bi-weekly.
One thing that I've seen cropping up more and more frequently, and it could be an additional incentive. And if it could happen is you're seeing on signs that there's work today, get paid tomorrow. You may not have to go that drastic, but there are companies that are offering that. And I don't know what if we do payroll in-house or not, but if we do it with a larger outside firm, is that a challenge that we could perhaps throw to them is just,
We
if
do payroll in-house, Scott. My first question though is like warrants, like do we'd have to, and Renee might be able to answer that better than I would. Because payroll is a warrant. So if we were paying substitutes weekly, would that be
Got it.
additional warrants that we would have to get people in to sign? And Renee's nodding her head, Scott, yes.
yeah, that makes
I'm not saying
perfect
it can't be done, but I can take it back to our team and we can brainstorm and see if that might be, is there a way that we could pay sooner substitutes to, as an incentive that you're not waiting? And sometimes if where you are in the cycle, it could be, longer than that too, when you get paid.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be hard for the person who's doing one a week.
Yeah, because like a Friday is not in the same pay cycle because the payroll gets like closed out on Thursday. So you could be closer to 3 weeks before you get paid for that Friday. So.
Yeah,
it's a
I mean, if I
valid
was,
point.
yeah, okay, just something to,
Yeah, no, it's a good note. Thank you.
Another thing is, and I read that letter and everything. If you want, and first of all, how many responses did you get from any of those letters that are sent out? Any yet?
Not yet. The letters just
went
went
out,
out.
okay.
Yeah.
My
This week.
point is, I looked at that and I know over the years, we've had paras, people with associates, bachelor's or master's degrees working there. And some of those paras that have degrees have been here 10, 15 years, and maybe they were making $13 an hour, which is, you're not going to get anybody that's going to do that. So my point is, there ought to be a talk about $20 to $25 an hour. You probably get some people and it'd be worth it to them. And then, but you can't have the union involved in anything like that, especially like that. So my point is, I suggest you talk about that, your team or whoever it is with the union, I guess, if you're going to have them involved, but they can't be involved in the sub pays. That's got to be, if we're that bad. I mean, we're sitting here talking about dumping $3.5 million in the ground outside the high school. So I think that it's time to look at, we need subs and paras, then that's where we ought to focus on if we actually.
Yeah, I mean, as you could recall from our discussion, when we raised the sub rate, we were bump up against what our entry level
Right.
para rate was and
Right.
felt that if we
Yep.
crossed that line.
I think
Yeah.
you're gonna have to cross the line.
I think
I
yeah.
think it's time you're gonna have to do it if you want to get people in here for our schools. And from listening to you, we obviously need them
We do.
because of the atmosphere in the school, in the classroom and stuff. So I'd say we'll work around it and maybe we gotta cut something else out, but I think that's where the importance is. So just my opinion.
So right now, we're not going to expend all the funds that are in our substitute budget line items because there's not enough, even with the increase that we did last month, we're not going to spend everything that we budgeted for subs because we just don't have enough subs. So
Yep.
it was, let's say, it was not the most attractive job even before COVID.
Right.
And, we asked people to come in at a moment's notice. I mean, our online substitute system works well for some, you can, if you're one of our substitutes, you can go on to your computer, you can see like, oh, there's a personal day next Friday at Molly Stark, so I can plan that.
Yeah.
But there's also that day, those are the most difficult ones to fill are the call-ins the day of, and that's.
Yeah. Another problem was, and hearing from parents and stuff, is when the teacher was out or something, they have to cover that class.
Right.
And that irritated the hell out because I think they cover the class, let's say half hour, you got an extra $1 or $2. That's insulting as far as, but that's, again, my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that all has to come out
So
and that's got to be changed.
I have spent, and obviously we have to spend more time with HR. We've studied, we've surveyed what other schools are doing. We've studied like what, that's how you got the dollar change last month, or was it 2 months ago for substitutes?
Right.
And we continue to look at it because we're concerned not just about substitutes, but our para educators.
Yeah.
There are other options out there for employment right now that is paying a similar wage, if not better.
I mean, you got McDonald's paying up to $14. Some other companies are paying 16. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of look at that and just chuckle, but anyway.
And sign-on bonuses. and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What else, Jim?
Any questions you may have?
Any other concerns for Jim? And we'll move on.
And I do apologize. I don't know what happened last Thursday that with the, so anyone who did come out for the evaluation meeting, so we'll get that rescheduled. I had it on my calendar, like I think many of us did, but I didn't have a Zoom link for it, or it was also not warned. But I think the mistake probably started with me putting it on my calendar and not then telling Amy to go ahead and warn the meeting. And then when no warning came out, I still should have picked it up that like, hey, wait, where's the warning for the meeting? I was completely going by my own calendar and not, so if anyone was inconvenienced that night, I apologize.
Well, I should have picked that up too, and I didn't. So my apologies, and we still have to reschedule. There's a committee that was designed for sub-pay discussion, even if it's not yet at a point where it can be finalized. At least we can get some ideas on the board.
And that sub-pay meetings, let me think of one item I didn't bring up. We're beginning budget season, so all of those meetings will start up. This week, we met, my administrative group met and then instructed Renee to go ahead, and we're going to do a little bit different. We're asking principals to submit first their first draft budgets, and then we'll meet with them. Because what the process that had been used in the past is they would meet with Renee to build their budget. And that's a whole series of meetings that I think that we can be more efficient of everybody's time and just have them submit the first draft of the budget. They've been given instructions where they can find last year's budget and given resources. If they need any assistance to build it, they were given a date that they have to submit it. So the budget ball is rolling. And so that's gonna, as you know, when we get into November and December, trying to find meeting dates becomes even tighter. So Renee, what's the date we asked them to return the first draft budget?
November 12th, but sooner if possible.
Yeah. Very optimistic, Renee. Thank you.
Well, that's one of three committees. Our finance committee includes Matt Makowski, Ray, Jayla, myself. And I know Arlington may want to substitute another person in that case, but we need to have involvement in that. The subcommittee is Leon, Ray, Nick, and Jackie, along with possibly Todd or Nicole. And the evaluation meeting, we have to reschedule that. I am stepping in here where I probably shouldn't be. I'm much less efficient at scheduling meetings than would happen through the central office. So
Amy can certainly
I
assist.
was thrown back at
Yeah.
Amy's
Okay.
lap and,
Good.
and let her work with the folks. She has a list of who's on the committees, and she can get the emails out to them and work out the dates.
I do have one more thing. I forgot. I looked in the corner and I forgot I asked Assistant Superintendent Laura Boudreau. Oh, it's been a long day. I asked her to come here and to talk to you about our family engagement title meetings that have wrapped up recently, why we did them and how successful they were. So if you would allow us to go back to the superintendent's report.
So last May, we shared with all of you that you as a board approved policy 5010, which was title parent engagement, which the policy committee updated last year to be in alignment with state expectations. And it was actually really exciting because a lot of the work of of that policy outlined how the expectation was is we would meet annually with parents in every building. And so we made a commitment and you asked us to come back to report how that went. So starting in August, the ask of every building administrator of all 10 sites was to schedule a parent engagement meeting. And so we completed 10 meetings. Either the superintendent, myself, or our director of curriculum instruction assessment also attended every meeting to make sure that we were listening to the parents that attended the meetings. We met with 31 families over the course of a month. All meetings were held virtually. We had sometimes families that showed up on the screen. We had pets and animals. We had great conversation, and there was structure on the front end of the meeting to just explain with them about title money. And the principals all had a chance to share their parent-family compacts of what's the agreement of how we're all going to support each other through the year. And then we just left the rest of the meeting for parents to have conversations with us. It was just an open conversation. So I just want to read some of the comments we received from the families and what we're doing with that information. Some of the comments ranged for how can we partner with our local libraries to support literacy work. We had people that I think really took off the activities we had last year virtually. We tried to offer family engagement activities last year virtually, which some of the comments we received were good, that they liked that because it allowed them to stay in their homes and still participate in our math game nights and our literacy nights, which we thought was good feedback. But they were also interested in us developing backpacks that they could sign out that were linked to math, in particular math and reading standards, and to do at home. And we've shared that with some of our coaches to think about development. We did get questions about recovery and what did that mean, which prompted us to update the recovery tab on our SVSU website, which is easy to find hopefully now and has a feedback form. And thank you to Melissa Senecal and Katie West for really addressing that. We had families ask about how to get on the K-12 alert system so they knew when things were happening in the building. And we realized we had some bugs in our system that we needed to work out. We had at one meeting, we had a really good conversation about accessibility on our playground equipment. Like, are we looking at the comment, which I thought was great, was does our playground outline really fit all kids? And it just really prompted us to think about our facilities to make sure that it's accessible for all students. We had parents ask about, because of COVID, a lot of parent groups were suspended, PTOs or parent groups. We had some families say, I was going to start again. Like, we'd love to be able to start to meet again. And then we had some great conversations around how are you including students in the decisions that you're making? What's the status of the personalized learning plans? And we had some parents that were thankful and appreciative and shared that they were pleased that there was student voice in the IEP process. And thanks for all that you have done to try to navigate this really difficult time. So every meeting ended with, we want to let you all know that we have SVSU policy 5010, parent engagement, and it falls under title, but that we want to know your feedback and we want input about the policy that I can bring back to the policy committee. And so again, for our first year of something we're just starting and trying, you had asked for us to provide some feedback, and I think we've started something wonderful, and we look forward to continuing with these listening tours. And even if it was Zoom, it was nice to get to every single site. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I know there was at least a concern brought forward maybe last season about a parent advisory council, and you're feeling that you're addressing those needs.
I think that conversation at that SVSU board member helped with our commitment ourselves, that we joined all of those meetings with the building administrators, because we really wanted to make sure that not only was the the school community, either some schools with staff and administration there, and that we were also hearing that same feedback. And so that SBSU meeting prompted us to add layers to this. But I'm feeling like as a start, connecting with 31 families and having some really rich conversations was a great way. And these meetings were open to everybody. Like, to me, and so what we need to build, what we need to work on, and what we heard from them is how can you advertise more? How can you get the word out? Because I think people are appreciative. I think they were kind of startled when we said, and now the meeting's open to just have a conversation. What do you guys want to talk about? And so how we build on that culture that we want to listen is, I think.
And startled, I think, by who they had there. That,
Yeah.
it was a great showing of administrative support there to listen, and they don't always get that access. So a great concept. We'll continue. And as Laura said, get the word out. And we'll double or triple the numbers.
Feedback available, or is that something?
I could organize it. So I'm required to submit also to this. So this is actually a requirement where we also, so this is the good news, and that was part of the policy this is a requirement. So I can put something together to share. Absolutely. Yes.
Laura doesn't like to share her notes directly. She likes to go back and rewrite them.
Gotta be neat. Thank you.
Now, I want to thank Laura and Director of Curriculum Instruction Assessment, Melissa Sanico, who, the two of them were really the driving force towards putting this together. I showed up to the meeting. They made it happen.
Principals did a great job too.
The principal's awesome.
Thanks also to Jim. You put out a video. It had to do with nurses, and because my wife is a nurse, I get a little bit of that feedback. And she was impressed. So just thank you that you're making the effort to do that on behalf of a group that is
Thank you to
Under
our
siege,
public information
I think.
coordinator, Katie West, who convinced me that I should do it. So,
I also listened to Dr. White and Mrs. Moliere. Do I have that pronounced right? That was pretty interesting, and I think the series is good. So for those folks who are able to connect to that, I think there are lots of things that need to be said.
What series was it?
The Equity Speaker
Series, yeah.
we have another one coming next week. I believe it's earlier this month in November because of the holidays. So I'll make sure that that link gets sent out to all the boards again. I think it's November 4th.
The only-
Can I just add one thing? I'd like to throw out a public acknowledgement for the work that Katie's doing. I've had to work with her on a few things with the various boards, and seeing her notes come in to the board members, and the information that's transparent is really helpful. And I appreciate what she's doing in the direction that she's been being given.
She's doing an outstanding job, Scott. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Thanks, Scott. I only have this is a comment that I have to throw out there. Sometimes in presentations, we hear a lot of ed speak. Sometimes that's not clear for a lot of us. If some of that, and I'm not sure this series is a problem there, I just think that presentations to boards or the public are better made in language that we can all understand. If I have to go look up some of it, and I consider myself an educated person, then it's not getting through to a lot of people. So it's just something I'd love to throw out there. We had in a policy meeting years ago, language where one of the committee members wanted to have a statement that said that used putative, the word putative. Now, we know what it means now, but most people looking at that didn't have an idea. And we had to all go look it up, and it should be kind of accessible.
in our study of equity, we wanted that is sometimes a barrier, that, language is used as a barrier sometimes. And so we try to, I'm looking at Laura and I said, the administrators that I get to work with know that I push back on acronyms all the time, because say the whole word, because the people listening, and Dick, you're absolutely right, may not listen. And it's not just education. It happens in every professional speak in a jargon that is unique to them, and then it becomes difficult to understand. So, but we have to always keep that in the forefront of our thoughts, that we have to, particularly the breakdown of acronyms, which education has so many of them. And so it's a point well taken, and it's a great reminder. And we do, all of us, at least the administrators that I work directly with, we push back on the use of acronyms as we speak, because not everyone gets it, and it is an equity issue. That language can block people out.
If you're going to use them, they should be identified somewhere early on.
Absolutely.
Or like, there was something that had a list of, our
You just got
about-
a breakdown on the
yeah, there's a
consultant. Yep.
there's
Renee
a,
included a breakdown of all the acronyms,
an acronym at the rear.
right? Because do we allow acronyms, Renee?
Yes, but these were the attached to people's names.
Yeah.
And they needed explication.
And
Oh, and
finally,
I thank Fran for calling me out on Esser. I shouldn't have said Esser, but it's
A lot of people I understood it, but I'm sure people watching didn't, so.
It's a great reminder for all of us. Talk a little slower, use a little less jargon from the profession.
and the state conference is 4th and the 5th, virtually. And,
Yeah, how do we got to sign up for that? I mean, normally we go, but I hadn't signed up yet, but I'm going to sign up just by notifying somebody. Well, I go online and do it. I think
You go
that's,
through the VSBA.
yeah,
Oh, it's all virtual?
Yeah.
it's all
No
virtual.
traveling. Okay.
I can double check tomorrow, but I think the link was in the email for signing up. But
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I just hadn't did it yet. I got to do it. I think that's when the school board sent out the link. It should be on, it was on that at one point in time, so I'll urge everybody to participate that possibly can. That'll be a full day, because we're talking about doing some other things on that day as well, but we always get some good stuff out of the annual school board meeting.
And we have 2 pieces of information: the budget status report, student enrollment for September and October of 21. Are there other items to be brought before the board?
Move adjournment.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Fran, a second from Leon to adjourn. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Not opposed. Thank you.
thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.